In very recent news, Russell Wilson left a Denver Broncos loss with a further injury, adding insult to injury. According to Denver head coach Nathaniel Hackett, Wilson had a hamstring injury during the Broncos' loss to the Los Angeles Chargers on Monday night. Additionally, it appears that Wilson isn't the only one struggling with the team's new plays, so stay tuned to find out all the details. Will Wilson ever be back to his normal self? Why are the Broncos suffering so much? Let's find out. Firstly, the Broncos' Russell Wilson recently injured himself after their loss to the Chargers. Here's everything you need to know. Russell Wilson, the quarterback for the Denver Broncos, is hurt once again in only his first game following his recent shoulder surgery. According to coach Nathaniel Hackett's statement to the media, Wilson sustained a hamstring injury during Monday's 19-16 overtime loss. Currently, it's still unclear how serious the injury is. Wilson finished the game finishing 15 of 28 overall for 188 yards, 1 touchdown and 0 interceptions after starting the game 10 for 10. On 4 carries, he added 23 yards of rushing, only contributing to Denver's poor record this season. Now the Broncos signed Wilson throughout the offseason in the hopes that he would provide an answer to their protracted quarterback dilemma, adding a 9-time Pro Bowler who, in his career, averaged 3,706 passing yards, 29.2 touchdowns, and 65% completion rates for 10 seasons over with the Seattle Hawks, sounding like a rather safe and practical choice. The former NC State and Wisconsin athlete signed a major 5-year, $245 million contract extension with Denver before the start of the regular season with $165 million of the amount guaranteed. It's difficult to think of a worse beginning for Wilson in his new home, especially given the sky-high expectations that both of the team and the fans had for him. Through the first 5 games, he completed 59.4% of his passes for 1,254 yards, 3 interceptions, and 4 touchdowns. Before Monday night's game, the Broncos' offense was rated 18th in the NFL in terms of yards per game and 31st in terms of points per game, only adding to this bad rating. They only managed to score more than 20 points in the first 5 games. Following their recent bad record, many fans and Bronco officials are hoping Wilson can heal up quickly and turn it around for Denver. Now, speaking of the Broncos, it appears Wilson isn't the only one struggling. The Denver Broncos lost to the Indianapolis Colts on Thursday night, and many fans are blaming their star quarterback Russell Wilson for the disastrous result. The Broncos acquired Wilson in a historic deal at the beginning of the season, but he has not yet lived up to the promise just yet. Both teams tragically failed to score a touchdown in this game, which resulted in overtime. The Broncos had a fantastic chance to win the game in overtime, but Wilson misread KJ Hamler's movement, leading him wide open for a touchdown. After the game, Hamler lost all control of his anger and began pounding his helmet against the ground. Many fans responded to this incident on Twitter by expressing their sorrow for Hamler. "I'm going to have nightmares about KJ Hamler not getting the ball there," one fan wrote in a comment. Now the Broncos have scored 6 touchdowns in 5 games this season, and the lack of consistency makes it unlikely that things will improve. Russell Wilson, the quarterback, and the rest of the offense aren't on the same page very often and occasionally don't appear to be reading the same book. According to Denver's coach Nathaniel Hackett, the Elway-Shanahan combination in 1995, which resulted in back-to-back Super Bowl victories to cap the 1997 and 98 seasons, is where Hackett got the idea for what he's trying to achieve with Wilson and the entire Broncos offense. Additionally, it was the beginning of a coaching family tree that later included Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, Sean McVay in Los Angeles, and Mike McDaniel in Miami. Now, Wilson had played 5 games with the Broncos, and this is where many quarterbacks, including some of the best to play in the NFL, have struggled through what they believe will be temporary pain to achieve that long-term, highly desired gain. For example, consider LaFleur's debut year with the Green Bay Packers, or Aaron Rodgers, who had 9 games with no touchdowns, passes, and 4 games where he didn't complete 60% of his throws. With Hackett serving as his offensive coordinator, even though the club cruised to a 13-3 finish, however, it all seemed to turn around for him in 2020 and 2021 when he went on to win the league's MVP title. So there is certainly hope for the Broncos and for Wilson to turn things around. Maybe it was simply a case of getting familiar with the plays and and perfecting their execution. Well, we definitely hope that's the case, but what do you think? Will the Broncos be able to make a much-needed comeback this season? Speaking of Russell, he has received backlash from his own teammates, but why? Well, here's what you need to know. Russell Wilson has received criticism over the years for what appears to be a manufactured character, which was immediately clear in his first season with the Broncos. Michael Robinson, a former teammate, claims as much. The current NFL Network analyst Robinson took some time to offer some guidance and some perspective on the Broncos locker room and Wilson's perhaps less than excessive social behavior when the club was 2-4, and in something of a funk, Robinson explained that he is like a robot and treats the sport and his team like a business, which certainly isn't a bad thing and probably is how he managed to land such massive deals. Robinson continued stating, "If you're a teammate in that locker room, you're like, dude, be human, please. Call somebody out. Be upset about something. Don't just act like the business as usual." However, this hasn't seemed to impact Wilson in the slightest, especially considering his salary. Before the 2022 season began, he inked a hefty $245 million agreement to keep him in Denver through 2028. It's difficult to criticize Wilson for being the team's hyper-positive face, but seeing how that may annoy teammates when things are going poorly is simple. Now, it's no secret that Broncos offense in 2022 was expected to be considerably more explosive than it has been thus far. Denver has scored 16 points or fewer in 5 of its last 6 games, and Wilson appears to have trouble adjusting to the offense of new head coach Nathaniel Hackett. Additionally, they have suffered a number of injuries with running back Javonte Williams, left lineman Garrett Bowles, and wide receiver Tim Patrick all out for the year. The fact that Melvin Gordon is dealing with it doesn't help either. Wilson's battling a hamstring ailment, but we'll see if Robinson remarks cause him any ego damage. Finally, speaking of the NFL, the football superstar himself had caused an uproar recently among the military community. How, might you ask? Well, let's dive into the details. Tom Brady, a 7-time Super Bowl champion and seasoned NFL quarterback, recently insulted real veterans of the American Armed Services by drawing a comparison between professional football and life in the military. On the Let's Go with Tom Brady, Larry Fitzgerald, and Jim Gray podcast, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback said, quote, "I basically look at football season like you're going away on deployment in the military, and it's like, man, here I go again." Brooklyn Nets player Kevin Durant was responding. Former service members were eager to correct the estranged family man, who will be earning $375 million as a commentator for Fox Sports after his NFL career is over. Slightly above the soldier's average salary. Following his remarks, many took to Twitter to share their frustrations. One user commented on the podcast writing, "As an Afghanistan veteran, I have a grudge respect for Tom Brady, but I found this comparison of football season to military mission to be extremely offensive." One former combat veteran referred to the late Pat Tillman, a former defensive back for the Arizona Cardinals who joined the U.S. Army Rangers in 2002 after the 9/11 terrorist attacks in 2004. He was killed by a friendly fire. Combat veteran Alberto Romero, who now a meteorologist, wrote, "I really hope Tom Brady delivers a public apology for the foolish words," along with a diagram of the very few things that football and military life even have in common. Furthermore, Jonathan Adamani, a Twitter user, echoed that attitude when he stated that Brady's accomplishments pale compared to those of real-life heroes like Tillman. Brady's confrontational gaffe is just one of many recent errors the future Hall of Famers made since marriage rumors started circulating in recent weeks. During the team's 2018 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday, he publicly criticized the Bucs' offense line. He also single-handedly attended the wedding of New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft in October, but there you have it, my friends, everything you needed to know about Broncos Russell Wilson, and how he recently injured himself, along with how the entire team seems to be suffering and why. Now make sure to let us know your thoughts down below. What is going on with Wilson? Do you think the Broncos can get back on track? Let us know, and as always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.